And I want to thank the great people of Battle River Crowfoot. Some people said it must have been a burden to go straight into a by-election campaign right after a national election. I say it was a blessing to spend time with such amazing, extraordinary people. These are the people who feed, power, and protect our country. And they welcomed me with open arms, even though they knew I was a city boy from Calgary, and that Calgary is a long way from Consort, Coronation, or even Camrose. They brought this city boy in and gave him some good rural education. They schooled me in much wisdom, whether it was at the bronc matches or the rodeos, the farmers markets, or the other gatherings. They taught me and reinstilled in me the great values of hard work, of family, of community, of self-reliance, of strength, and of patriotism. And to them, I will always be grateful. Most of all, I will be grateful to the great Damien Currick, a wonderful patriot who put his country before himself. A father, and of course, most of all, a farm boy. And he brought me onto the farm and taught me a few lessons. He even brought me into his new cedar at the beginning of the season. And I got inside and started asking question after question. And eventually I could see he was getting impatient with me. And he said, you know that this machine depreciates at a rate of $400 an hour, so that in the time you've been asking these questions, it has cost me $100. I'm not a farmer, but Damien tells me that if I were, I would be outstanding in my field. Oh, come on, at least one gadget. Around here. But this is really the people who feed, power, and protect our country. They feed our nation through the farmers and the ranchers. These are not just any farmers. Many of them are century farmers, meaning their families have been there for over 100 years. They survived through boom and bust, through depression and drought, on some of the toughest farmland in the entire world. In fact, when many of the early pioneers arrived in the special areas of eastern Alberta, they were told, don't bother. There's not enough rain or soil to farm here. They said, we'll do it anyway. And 5, 6 generations later, those same family names are engraved on signs that you will see up and down the highways and byways of this incredible community. And through all the hardship, it has been their dedication to their families, to passing on to the next generation what they inherited from the previous, that these incredible families continue to make the dry, thin soils of the region blossom and bloom and take food from farm to feeding our families across the country. The great ranchers who harvest, who put out their herds onto these great grasslands of eastern Alberta, they are second to none in the world, and I pledge to forever be their most loyal customer. And Mr. Speaker, it is not just that. This is the people who power our country. We have the oil workers of all different trades. I'll give you just one example. The people of Hardisty, Alberta, 600 people in a town where there is a tank farm that moves over $90 billion of petroleum products. $90 billion is more than the GDP of about 50 of the world's countries, you can imagine. And it's 600 people that move this oil through roughly a half dozen pipelines, an amount that grows every single day. And then finally, we have those who protect our country, the soldiers at CFB Wainwright who are willing to lay their lives down for their country, and the prison guards in Drumheller who keep the most dangerous people away from our children and our communities, taking risks every day with their lives that none of us would be prepared to take. It is because of these soldiers and these prison guards that we can live in a safe country, and it is a privilege to represent them. And it is for them and for all Canadians that we are here fighting today. Our purpose is to restore the Canadian promise, to make this a country where hard work is rewarded, where food and homes are affordable, where streets are safe, where borders are solid, and where we're all united under a single Canadian flag, Canadians first, regardless of our origins. The people of Battle River Crowfoot are a microcosm of the suffering that has unfolded over the last 10 years of Liberal government. Let's start with their paychecks and the take-home pay. In Battle River Crowfoot, the energy workers are under attack. They've seen Canada's biggest industry under a direct assault by a federal government that sought to, quote, keep it in the ground, an objective imposed by the previous Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, on the advice of the current Prime Minister, who wrote that 50% of Canada's oil would have to stay in the ground. The current Prime Minister, who testified against building a pipeline from Hardisty, Alberta, to the Pacific to allow us to go around the Americans and reach 2.5 billion customers overseas. Now, he promised that he would be different after his protege, whom he advised, drove hundreds of billions of dollars out of our country. But in fact, this Prime Minister has been worse. On matters of energy, while there have been many photo ops and meetings, papers have been shuffled, new offices have been created, and all of that has created a show that has amounted to nothing. In reality, he is blocking 38 projects that are currently sitting before federal regulators. He has kept in place the industrial carbon tax, the energy cap, the new carbon tax under a different name, the fuel standard. And he has created a new bureaucracy that will further slow down progress on these projects. In the 6 months this Prime Minister has been in power, a net $50 billion of investment has fled our country due to his high taxes and his increased regulation and red tape. In fact, just this week, 96 energy CEOs wrote saying that nothing he has done will reverse the damage the Liberals have exacted on our energy industry. The only way forward, Mr. Speaker, is to remove these terrible laws. The irony of his approach is this. He admits that his laws block energy production. So instead of getting rid of those laws, he passes another law to go around the bad law. He admits his bureaucracies block energy production. So instead of getting rid of those bureaucracies, he creates a new bureaucracy to get around the old bureaucracies. It seems that he confuses the problem with the solution. Why not just accept that the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line? If you've got an obstacle, get rid of the obstacle. Put simply, get out of the way. So that is one example of how he blocks people from earning paychecks. And if they should be lucky enough to earn any paycheck at all, then he takes a big bite out of it. Liberal taxes now represent a higher cost than food, clothing, and shelter combined for Canadians, meaning that government is the single biggest cost in their lives, a cost that has risen dramatically in 10 years of Liberal government. And then what's left of their take-home pay gets eaten up by Liberal inflation. This is when governments create cash faster than the economy creates the goods that cash buys. The Prime Minister is a notorious inflationist. He has a terrible record on the subject. Of course, when he was the governor of the Bank of England, he had the second highest inflation rate in all of the G7, and only worse than the Liberal government provided here in Canada. He caused the housing crisis there by printing cash. And of course, the British media said that he was the unreliable boyfriend of central banking, constantly changing his mind and engaging in decisions that drove up costs and drove down growth. And what do you know? Here he is repeating the same mistakes in Canada that he made over there, the same mistakes he advised Justin Trudeau to make. He does it all. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. We as Conservatives want to slash the bureaucracy, the consultants, the foreign aid, the corporate welfare, the handouts to phony refugees, to bring down the cost so that no longer government will print money, and in fact, we can preserve the purchasing power of our dollar. And our purpose is stronger take-home pay, which means we have to unlock paychecks by repealing Liberal anti-development laws, making this the fastest place on earth to get a building permit, unlocking the free enterprise system with an open for business policy. And so we ask the government to accept our positive solutions, adopt the Canadian Sovereignty Act that will make our economy strong, self-reliant, and stand on its own 2 feet. Let us cut income taxes so that hard work once again pays off and people bring home more of each dollar they earn. And let's preserve purchasing power by ending the money printing and allowing our dollar to go further. These are among the positive solutions that we ask the Liberal government to get out of the way and support.
Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to welcome the honourable member from Battle River Crowfoot back to this place. And he started his speech by talking about the importance of agriculture and the ranching community in Alberta and across the prairies. And to him, I say you have an ally here in me and this government in supporting agriculture. And I'm glad to hear that he will be a champion for agriculture in this House. But I had the opportunity to look through the Conservative platform back from April of 2025. Next to no mention about farmers or ranchers whatsoever. And I was in a debate with the honourable member from Foothills during the election. It was sad to see that there was almost next to nothing in the platform around agriculture, despite the fact that we hear a lot about that from the Conservative Party. Will the member from Battle River Crowfoot make sure that moving forward, not only will he have more to say about farmers to make sure they're not taken for granted, but I want to ask a question around clean fuel standards. I was in with the Canola Council of Canada this week with the Prime Minister. They believe that the clean fuel standard is an important driver for Western Canadian agriculture, especially at this moment. Why is he against that policy at a time that it really matters for Western Canadian farmers?
Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the standard he talks about is actually a new carbon tax. According to the Parliamentary Budget Officer, who relied on information supplied by the government itself, it will add 17 cents a litre to the cost of fuel at the pump. 17 cents a litre is exactly the price that Canadians were paying on the previous Liberal carbon tax. And thankfully, Conservatives forced the Liberals to reverse themselves after they had brought in and increased that tax, and after the Prime Minister, the current Prime Minister, had written about the need to raise that tax. And I said at the time, thank goodness we have a short reprieve. But if the Liberals are re-elected, they will bring in another carbon tax. And sadly, I regret to inform the House that I was right about that. They are bringing in a new carbon tax, which will not only harm consumers, but it will harm farmers, because of course farmers use fuel in order to produce food. We are against all carbon tax. We want to get rid of all carbon taxes for everyone, for real, for good. Yeah.